Okay, so we're live. Hello, Allison. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm so happy you were able to pop on here today. And I know you don't have a lot of time to talk to us, but I'm glad that you came in um, to talk a bit some more about the work that you're doing and all the questions people ask you most often. And we kind of scheduled this cast because I had saw a post that you wrote on LinkedIn about digital nomads working in France. And I was like, now that's something lots of people ask me about, which I normally refer them to you. So I thought it might be good to have you come on here and just to talk a bit about, for people who are thinking about coming to work in France, who are digital nomads, um, what they need, what they need to know that they don't
Okay.
know.
All right. So the most important thing to know is that there's no such thing as a digital nomad visa in France. Um,
Okay.
there are countries like Croatia, which are kind of starting the digital nomad thing.
Yeah.
But there's no visa type specific to being a digital nomad. So
Okay.
either you're here as a tourist, in which case if you're working from your computer for a company that's set up in another country, is anybody going to care or catch you? Probably not. Is it legal? Kind of questionable. And the thing
Okay.
to keep in mind is that, a lot of these laws and a lot of these visa types were set up before the possibility of connecting in one country and working in one country while having a company and an income in another country was not really a possibility.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of times people will get away with it, or they'll do something like they'll get a visitor visa and be living in France with income from another
Another
country, but it's
country.
not really what they're supposed to do, and it can really set you up for a lot of problems. One, if the tax office finds out about it and
Yeah. It's always the
reclassifies
tax
you.
man, right?
Yeah,
It's always the tax man.
yeah. Or if you end up deciding that you want to stay in France long term, and have a path to long-term residency or citizenship in
Right.
France, you really need to be established here on a visa that allows you to work and pay taxes and be paying said taxes. Um,
So can it be the situation where because when you apply for a visa, you always have to show like proof of financial that you can financially support yourself. And so let's say you had a visitor's visa and you were working digitally for another country in another company in another country, and then you try to change your visitor's visa to a working visa, but they see that you've been in France, but your financial statements show that you've been working.
Exactly. And I've actually had clients in that situation before where they had a major problem switching their visa status. So, this is actually something that the consulates themselves are not in total agreement. So right now,
Okay.
if you were to contact the French embassy in Washington and say, "Hey, I have a job in the U.S. and I'm going to continue working for them remotely
Yeah.
from France and um, doing my job digitally uh, and all of my work is from the US and all of my money is going to go to my US bank account. Can I do that?" And they would probably say yes. Um, because their job is to see that you have the financial ability to stay in France.
Support yourself. Right.
And they don't know all of the tax implications and how URSAF is for social charges. Um, they don't know how URSAF is going to react. They don't know how the tax office is going to react, and they
Right.
don't know how.
Nor do they care.
Nor do they care. Nor is it their problem. Nor
Exactly.
do they know things about like how the prefecture is going to react when you go
Mm.
to the prefecture to renew your visa at the end of the first year, um, or the end of the second year, and they say, "Okay, show us your French tax return," and you show them a French tax return, and either you've properly declared your worldwide income as a tax resident of France, living in France for over 183 days, because that's a condition of your visa, and they're going to
Right.
see in that case that you've declared all this income that how are you generating it because you don't have the right to work in France?
Right.
Or alternatively, you have not declared all of your income on your French tax return in order to hide the fact that you were working in France when you
Working.
weren't supposed to
Right.
be. And then that's a whole different problem, because that's like a tax evasion problem.
Right. Okay.
And they might not catch that right away, but I mean, you're really setting yourself up for a bad situation where if you ever want to apply for residency, or if you want to get a 10-year resident card after 5 years of living in France, a visitor visa doesn't enable you to do that, because you're not contributing to the French tax system.
And that's what matters most. I mean, I got my citizenship and I did it twice. And the first time that it got denied, it wasn't that I hadn't worked in France for many years. It's just that once I had decided to apply, I had decided to go back to university. So I wasn't paying any taxes at that time. And that's what they want to see. They want to see that you can contribute to the economic structure of France, and that you're bringing something to France to boost its economy. And
So, I mean, one way to do it, and my accountant did a workshop on this a couple of weeks ago, and I went and watched it. It was very interesting. There is a way to sort of be a digital nomad in France, which is setting up your company or setting up the company that you work for to be a foreign company registered in France.
Okay. So
now
like a subsidiary?
Yeah,
so like
it's kind of like a subsidiary. Yeah, it's kind of like saying we have some clients in France, or we have an employee in France, but we're not really established in France, but there's work for us being done from France. Okay. And so what that does is that enables you to have a French work contract, which is the equivalent of a CDI. A CDI is a contrat à durée indéterminée, which is sort of like the holy grail in
Yes, it is.
the holy grail of working in France. So if you're an employee for like an American company and they're willing to do this and get set up as a company, like having some kind of presence in France, it costs them 1,500 to 2,000 euros in order to do that. And they need to hire an accountant in order to do all of the accounting and make sure you have, your French pay slips and all of that
stuff. So, but what if you're a freelancer?
Yeah, if you're a freelancer, that aspect is not going to work for you. Now, if you're a freelancer, what you can do is there's a visa. Well, there are several visa types specifically for people who are self-employed. There's one called profession libérale, which is for a typical freelancer or a self-employed person. You have income under 72,000 euros per year. You have a very narrow set of services in an unregulated industry, like you're a web designer or you're a tutor or something, and you're able to show that you're going to have about 1,500 euros per month of income, or you get up to that level of income during the first year.
Sort of like you have to like the SMIC, so it's like you have to meet the minimum wage, the minimum wage requirement.
Exactly. So the advantages of that is like you have a really simplified accounting practice, because auto entrepreneur, like you do invoices, you declare your income monthly, you pay 22% off the top in social charges for your health insurance. Right. If you're only making that 1,500 euros per month, you'll probably get your visa renewed once a year. If you're going over and above that level, then you're probably going to be able to get a 4-year card at the end of your first year. At the end of the 4-year card, you'll be able to get a 10-year card.
10-year card.
And then once you will have been in France for 5 years consecutively and done 5 years of tax declarations, you can apply for French naturalization. Now, you should also know that if you've been making 1,500 a month, that's not going to be enough to get naturalized. Normally, for naturalization, they're looking for 1.5 times SMIC minimum wage, which is about $2,250 a month gross. So normally I like to have my clients shoot for 2,500 to 3,000 a month, which is not.
And that's euros, right? That's euros.
That's euros, yeah. But that income can come from any source. It can come from, teaching kids English in China. It can come from, having local tutoring clients who are hiring you individually. It can come I'm using the example of an English teacher because that's a lot of people who want to come to a lot of people who want to come to France to teach English. This is how they have to do it, because there's no specific visa to get hired directly by a French company to teach English. But you can work as an independent contractor for an English school and have individual clients on your own and teach English to kids on the internet, and have all these different sources of income. And that's something that I've helped clients to do in the past.
Yeah, because I get a lot of people asking me, they want to come to France, and then lots of artists, because I know you get a lot of
Mhm.
clients who are artists too, and they want to come here to write a book, or they want to come here to be inspired to paint or do fashion, and they're sort of in a freelance sort of category, I guess. What would be sort of what would you suggest for someone who, for all those artists who are dreaming of coming to Paris for inspiration? What do you think is the best is the best path for them to have money saved before they come, to show they can support themselves until they get like contracts and gigs? Or what would be your recommendation for those artists looking to come?
Yeah, great question. So I get a lot of people in that situation, including one client that I'm potentially going to start working with very shortly. And
Right.
the key thing is to look at where the money is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they care about most. I definitely recommend, and in fact, it's a requirement of the visa application, to have a certain amount of money saved for your living expenses at the beginning,
Okay.
no matter what type of visa you get.
Mm.
And the minimums are covered in my book, Foolproof French Visas. And it also depends a little bit on what your income coming in is going to be. So if you have, not so much money saved up, but you have contracts, especially contracts with French clients, showing that you're going to meet or exceed the 1,500 euros per month right from the very beginning, that's really great. They're going to be a little less picky about the amount of money in your bank account.
Okay.
If you have fewer contracts coming in, or fewer promises of
Or
actual money,
no, or no
or
contract.
no, or no, or just potential letters of
Because
interest from
people,
people who may want to work with you sometime in the future, then
okay,
I
so that's
definitely
so
recommend
that's
having.
so that's good to have like letters of interest saying like if they get like a gallery or a publishing
Yeah,
house or something like that, if they just say we would like to, something stating that someone wants to work with you,
yeah,
that that could be helpful.
but here's the thing, they're going to be looking at, is there going to be money coming in from a French or European source?
Right.
And like, you can be in France on a visitor visa and write a book. Um, and I've had clients who,
Okay. Okay.
like
I
writing a
guess
book,
because that's not paid work,
that's not
right?
paid work. You're not going to get paid
Right.
until the book is written and you sell it.
Right.
But
You
if
need
you're
to be
going
able
to
to support
be
yourself during the time.
exactly, like if you're going to be
Right.
writing a book, but you're also going to be a freelance writer or a freelance translator or something else while you're writing your book, then you want to do a visa application based on the fact that you're going to be a freelance writer or translator or English teacher
During that time.
or belly dancer or whatever. Um,
I don't know
because
why that popped into your head, but why not?
well, I just wanted to pick something. I wanted to pick something random. I wanted to pick something random.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, belly
but
dancing
yeah, I
is
mean, it doesn't.
international. It's
Yeah,
possible.
yeah,
Yeah,
it could be any kind of business. Like you don't have
yeah,
to be a coach or,
yeah,
I've had clients kind of like run the get. Like I've had a coach, a graphic designer,
yeah,
a website designer, a writer, an author. One of my author clients scheduled writing retreats, which obviously are not
right.
happening because of COVID, but
Yeah,
hopefully they'll be able to happen. Um, things like that. If you're just,
sure.
if
Me
you
too. I
publish
mean, I
stuff
get
and
I get
yeah,
people from all kinds of people who are in, like I said, in fashion. Lots of people who want to write a book. Um, people who want to come here to find an artist residency and things like that. And I think what people have to understand is like they all want help with this stuff, and they're hoping that like the people who give them letters of intention will help them with their visa process, but they are not going to. No one is going to help you with your visa process but yourself. And
yeah,
especially in France, you have to understand these people are government workers. They are not there to help you figure out what you're supposed to do. You have to figure out what you're supposed to do. Is that correct
yeah.
from? Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And a lot of people, even in terms of getting the letters of support, it is very helpful to have letters of support from people in France,
Mhm.
even if they're just letters of interest, even if it's a letter saying, um, I'd love to support Mundy's candidature for the such and such visa,
Right.
because she designs websites and my company is going to need a web redesign, and we've requested a quote from her and would be
Okay.
interested in working, we like her work. Even
Yeah.
something like that, it's
Yeah.
not legally binding, it's not a contract. If you
Mm.
don't do that project, they're not going to come back and say, oh, you said you would hire Monday to do your website and you never did, or Monday you said you would work with this particular client and
Right.
she never hired
It's
you,
just
so
showing
therefore we're
that
going to
there's
take
a
your visa.
possibility. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
just showing the
exactly. Like,
possibility that something could be created that would contribute to the French economy in some way.
exactly. And that you're going
Right.
to have the possibility of earning money. A lot of times it's even just about showing connections and contacts in your field,
Sure.
even if
Mm.
there's no like concrete promise of money happening. But the
Right.
thing is that even with like, the really non-committal type of letter that I just described, there are even
Yeah.
some people who are nervous about doing that because they're nervous that somebody's going to call them up and why didn't you hire this person, and
No, that's not gonna
you said
happen.
you would, like,
The French, they
it's
never
never
take
gonna
that
happen. But
initiative. Yeah. No.
yeah, but a lot of times people will really need to be reassured in order to give you those letters,
Sure.
and that's part of like where I come in, and I write the letters in such a way where
So people
it's
have to be very specific when they're asking for those letters to let them know this is I'm not. This is just as a way to help my visa dossier. This is not contractually binding to put those people at ease.
right, exactly.
Okay.
And that's part of where I come in, is like explaining to people like, you know, like it would be great if this project does work out. And
Sure.
usually my clients do have, 2 or 3 projects that are fairly serious.
Right.
And it's not the hesitation about doing the project. It's the hesitation of, and paying for the person to do the project. It's a hesitation of like, what if this falls through? What if I'm like
Yeah.
liable in some way for signing this letter? And that's really not the case, but
Right. But
it's just
being
a letter of
able to
support.
really explain that to people who you're trying to get letters from, that's some. I think that is good advice.
Yeah.
I would say another question lots of people ask me about is showing financial proof. They're like, what does that mean?
So it can take a couple of forms. Cash in your bank account, actual cash,
Mhm.
not a retirement account, not a
Right.
CD that you can't access.
Okay. So
Um,
no investment accounts that are difficult to access the money.
right. No investment
Okay.
accounts. Unless you're retired. Like if you're retired and you have a 401k, then great. And your retirement, especially if you're retirement age and you're drawing from it, then that's totally fine.
Okay.
But if you're younger, they're going to want actual cash money in the bank.
Right.
Um, and one of the things I like to include now, sometimes I have clients who have already been doing a particular business in the US. Like, for
Right.
example, they're a coach in the US and they've had coaching income and now they're just moving that activity to France. And so
Okay.
in that case, I want to show a little bit of a history of, this is what I made in 2020, this is what I made in 2019, and just kind
Mhm.
of like, showing that it's a stable business with income coming in. And sometimes I have clients who are switching from a corporate job or leaving their job in order to become self-employed because it's a good way to get to France without being sponsored by an employer.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
in that case, having financial projections that show, okay, this is what my services cost, this is what my packages are, this is how much I can expect to sell, per month,
Hmm.
for the next 3 years, like, and it's kind of based on guesses, like it's
Right.
based on good guesses,
So
but
you're
it's
kind of
based
just
on
giving a trajectory of cash money
exactly.
in the bank plus the trajectory of the income you think you can earn.
Yeah, and showing based on the fact that, okay, I put together this coaching package, or I put together this, when I work with my tutoring clients, I'm going to evaluate them, and then they're going to have, they can sign up for uh 5 sessions in 6 weeks, or they can sign up for 12 sessions in 10 weeks, and it'll cost this much.
Right.
And, just kind of showing that you've thought it through. I've had some clients who have been like tutors or English teachers or something who have, I had one client where we stopped working together because she wanted to be she wanted to teach English and do like document editing and stuff like that, and she only wanted to charge like €8 an hour. And I said to her, now this was fine. She was doing it under the table on a visitor visa, and she wanted to switch to be able to do it
To do it
legally.
properly,
And I
yeah.
said, okay, well, yeah, well, then you're going to be paying taxes. And if you're going to be taking the
So you have
metro
to charge
to a
at
client,
least 22% more, at least to cover your social costs.
at least, but then also
Right.
consider the fact that, you know, if you're tutoring for an hour, but you're also taking the metro to your client,
You're
to
gonna lose
like,
that time. Yeah.
it's gonna take at least 30 minutes of travel time, if not
Mm,
more,
mm.
in a major city. So you have to charge them for at least 2 hours of your time. Like, you're not going to be able to do a full 35-hour week of tutoring. You're going to have to do like maybe 15. So
Yeah,
how can you
yeah,
make a full-time income with doing, 15 hours a week of actual one-to-one
yeah.
client work?
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. And so in your book, Transformation, does it go through all of this part for nomads? What chapter is that in your book?
So there's a section in the introduction called Working Remotely.
Okay,
And then there's a section specifically on visas for people who are self-employed,
okay,
that goes through the 4 self-employment visa types. So there's profession libérale, there's commerçant, which is for starting a company. There's
hmm,
passeport talent entrepreneur, which is starting a company with a significant financial investment. And
right,
there's passeport talent profession artistique, which is for the artists, writers, content creators, stuff like that that we
mm.
mentioned. And for each section, it goes into like how to decide if this visa type is the best one for you. What are you going to need to show in terms of your project plan and letters of support and financial projections and cash in the
Is
bank
there
and all
sort
of
of
that
like
stuff?
an example inside?
There's not there might be an example for some of them, but it's more
Okay,
like the nitty gritty of like, these are the documents you need. This is like, you know, what
okay.
kind of,
Just kind of explains like how they could go through the procedure.
exactly, exactly. And
Okay,
then when I work with my clients, I mean, I have a program called the Complete French Business Incubator, which walks you through how to write all of this stuff. So
okay,
if you're doing it on your own, like, it guides you through how to write uh, each section of the business plan, how to do your
mhm.
financial projections. It has templates. It has successful visa applications that my clients have submitted, either that they've written.
Okay, so you
No,
have
I think it's all
examples
ones
of
that.
successful applications
Exactly.
they
Yeah, it's
can
all
see.
ones that
Okay,
I have written for my clients that have been successful.
okay,
All of my clients who have had enough money in the bank have been successful.
yeah.
Um, I add that caveat: have
And
enough
I
money in the
will,
bank.
for all those who watches the replay or whatever, I will put a link to Allison's book in the comments, so you can check that out. It's called Transformation, and it does go through all the different visa types, so you can try to decide which one is best for you, and it kind of walks you through um, how to navigate that visa. And if it's all a little bit too intimidating and the French is all too much, I will also put the contact for Allison's company, Franceformation, where you can get in contact with her should you want some assistance with the process. I will also put some links to some YouTube videos that I did. I am not an expert on visas by any stretch of the imagination, but because I've had so many clients ask about visa information, I've done some videos just giving a general overview of what some of the categories are so that you can start familiarizing yourself. But if you want more in-depth, detailed professional help, it would be more Allison than me. My job is more helping you to create your life, the life that you want to create when you move abroad. I know Allison has been in the game for a long time, so she's seen it all. So I would say, if you have any more questions that we didn't cover here today, and just to kind of sum up, I think of what always says, it's basically that if you're in France and you're a digital nomad and you're here over 90 days, you need to start thinking about getting a different type of visa, right?
Yeah, well, even before you get here, if you
Okay.
want to stay before 90 days, like, there is no way to get around applying for a visa in your home country. So,
Okay.
yeah, if you're a tourist, then great.
If you're not, apply
you're
for the right
not,
visa before you get here.
yeah.
So what
Yeah, because you're
happens
gonna
if
have
you did come in a visa and then you came on a visitor's visa to try to like get some context to get, say, these letters of intention or people interested in your work, and then you do get that? Do you have to go back to your home country to apply for a different type of visa,
it
or can they
depends.
go to the prefecture?
It depends. And this is one thing that Foolproof French Visas covers that's very complicated.
Okay.
There are rules about which visa types can switch to which other visa types, and when in your stay in France you can do that. I will give you the example. You definitely have to renew your status at least once before you can even think about switching to another visa type. So, for example, if you come with a student visa or a visitor visa, you need to renew your visa with the same visa type at the end of the first year.
Okay.
You cannot come and immediately try to switch to another visa type that's going to get you kicked out of France.
Okay.
Because that means that you don't want that. You can, at that point, you can either go back to the US or go back to your home country to apply for a new visa from scratch.
Okay.
Or alternatively, you can renew your visa once at the end of the year, wait for your carte de séjour to be processed. Once you have the physical card in your hand that you have gone to pick up, then you can make an appointment in order to switch your status. And when you, at that appointment will be 3 to 4 months down the line, depending on the prefecture. And then depending on the prefecture and the visa type you're switching to, sometimes they will give you approval to switch on that day. Sometimes they will have you submit the application and then you will get your response a couple months later. So each prefecture has their own, kind of rules about how they navigate changes of status.
But you recommend the safest thing to do, if you can, is to apply for if you think you're going to be working, even if you're a digital nomad, is to apply for the appropriate visa before you even get here, because you can run into the complications of when you apply for the proper visa and you showing proof of income and they see that you were working while you're in France. That could actually get you in trouble if someone is actually paying attention enough to to the timeline.
Exactly.
Right.
And
that can prevent you from getting further visas or further access in France if you do it that way.
Yep. And I had a client who was here on a visitor visa, and she was doing photography, and she had pictures on her website of clients that she had photographed in front of the Eiffel Tower, like very obvious, French locations. And they denied her, and the consulate did not give her a visa because they looked at her website and they saw you were working in France. Like, she had gone back to the US to try to get a visa to be a photographer instead of the visitor visa that she had at that time. And they did not give her the new visa because they said, well, you were working in France when you weren't supposed to be, and it's very obvious from your website. And she tried to give them the argument like, oh, well, it was just for my portfolio and I didn't get paid and blah, blah, blah. And they did not buy that at all. So it's better
to do things so even if you came to get contacts, letters of intention, it's better to go after you get that, to go home, apply for the proper visa to come back to work. Okay.
Yeah, but definitely, I mean, the best thing to do, and I mean, I know this is something that you work on with your clients too, but have that vision first and know what your goal is. And know, if you want to spend more than 90 days in France, if you think you might want to spend, I have some people who come and they're like, I really just want to stay for 1 year. And then I'm like, well, do you really want to go through all of the rigmarole of setting up a business in France if you're not going to stay longer? And
because it's going to be complicated.
Right, because it's not an easy thing to do. There's a lot of work associated with it.
But
at the same time,
there's a lot of bureaucracy, and what people have to understand is a lot of bureaucracy. And if you are not fluent in French, it takes a lot of time. You know, these are very detailed documents that you have to go through. And if you're not comfortable with the language, it can become a very stressful situation very fast. But it's coming up on 30 minutes, and I know you have to go because you have a full day. But for all those watching, like I said, I will put who watches the replay, I will put all of Allison's information in there. We do collab together. I'm the vision creator. I help people create their vision for what they want to do, how they want to do it, how long they want to stay, what, you know, and along that road. And Allison does similar things, but she is definitely a specialist with helping people find that right visa for their project and making sure that they set themselves up to have the visa that's going to fit their lifestyle. So I thank you for coming and talking with us.
Thank you so much.
And sort of clearing up a lot of questions that I know people who are thinking about becoming digital nomads in France, the things that they will need to know. And when they ask me, I will refer them to this lovely video.
Excellent.
Okay, well, you have a great day.
You too. Have a wonderful day.
And I'm sure we'll speak too soon.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Okay. Bye.